Hey, what's up guys, Good Gypsy back here today, bringing you guys Season 7 finals of the NPL up against RizzyPOW, the man himself. Riz has had a really good season. He's fought hard to get where he is in the finals, so it's shaping up to be a really fun match. Riz has a very spooky team, as you guys can see over to the right there, with stuff like Zeke and Black, Greninja, even Breloom is a bit of a threat. Mega Aerodactyl is a big menace, and stuff like Gengar, and just pose a big threat to my team. I don't really see stuff like Excadrill coming in this match, but he's definitely got a very offensive team with stuff like Clef as well to provide some just bulk in the back. Yeah, shaping up to be a very fun match, and I've prepared a team here today which I'm very happy with, and I really am confident in, so gonna jump right into the team builder for this. I know a lot of you guys probably caught this live on the stream, but for any of those who didn't, I do hope you enjoy this video. So the first set we are bringing this week is the defensive/offensive Celesteela. So this Celesteela at first glance looks kind of like a strange spread. The kind of intention behind this Celesteela is to function as an Aerodactyl check. Heavy Slam just blows it away. I can take 2 Stone Edges from an Adamant Aerodactyl. Protect with lefties helps me bluff a purely defensive set, or maybe even a Spadef set if he hits me with a physical move and realizes that I'm not like max defense. And the idea behind Autonomize with Heavy Slam and Earthquake is just that Celesteela can be a really solid late game win con, being able to either weaken down his team for its other teammates, or even just capitalize on a weakened team and sweep itself. So that is the idea behind Celesteela. With this spread, I do tank physically offensive hits from his team quite well. Obviously, I live stuff like Life Orb Fusion Bolt from Kyurem. I take 2 Adamant Stone Edges, like I mentioned, but I've got enough attack that I get an attack boost when I do get a kill with Beast Boost. So that is important, obviously, for sweeping when I get an Autonomize up. So if you look at his team, Kyurem takes around half from a Heavy Slam. It takes about 75% if it's just like an offensive one at +1. So if I get some chip on that, or if it takes rocks damage, and I get a kill with Celesteela, it just locos an offensive Kyurem, which is really nice. Clefable gets blown away by Heavy Slam. Greninja needs some chip and then gets blown away by +1 EQ. You've got Gengar, just dies to EQ. Breloom dies to +1 Heavy Slam. Aerodactyl blown away. Mesprit can take a couple of Heavy Slams if it's a defensive set, but it's not really doing a ton back unless he's like offensive T-Bolt. Lantern dies to +1 EQ if it's offensive, and if it's defensive I just get some chip on it. And Furfrou, I don't know about Furfrou coming here, to be honest, but yeah, you see Celi is quite solid in this matchup. And again, as I said, like the lefties protect, it does allow it to sort of kind of deceive my opponent into maybe thinking this is just a purely offensive set. The next one we have is my Z Iron Tail Kyurem, my Lando T, I should say. Potentially a Kyurem Black check if he's not running a speed boosting Kyurem, although I do expect Riz to be running that. If he does want to run like an attack boosting natured Kyurem to break down my team better, then this speed is going to really come in clutch, because I will be able to outspeed max speed Adamant or Modest Kyurem. With this attack investment, I Oko offensive Kyurem with Z Iron Tail, as well as doing a ton to defensive Clef, really like weakening that thing. With this HP, I live a max attack Adamant Ice Fang from Adamant Aerodactyl from full, which is important because I can always Oko that with Iron Tail. Getting rocks up here will be really nice. It's actually critical for certain mods on my team like Celesteela, as I mentioned, in sweeping. Rocks is just really nice if I can get them up. But if anything, Landorus will be firing off a big Z move and really just checking stuff on his team like the Blaziken and the Breloom if they do come. Having that speed to be able to outspeed both of those is really solid. Getting an Intimidate drop may also help versus the Aerodactyl, may help in Diancie and Celesteela setting up as well, so that's pretty nice. Just a very nice supportive team player in this match. Very offensive though compared to sets I've brought in the past, but definitely necessary for this game. So Earthquake also helping with stuff like Lantern, which stands in the way of Celesteela really putting in work. The next one we have is my Scarf Modest Hydreigon. So this is a really solid mod in this matchup. Flash Cannon here predominantly to hit Clef, because if that thing does come in, if I'm not wanting to make the U-turn play into Golf on Clef, I can always hit it with a Flash Cannon and do a ton to a KO if he's not Spadef. But honestly, Draco is really solid versus his team. If he doesn't opt to bring Clef for some reason, if he fears it getting trapped by Goth, Draco just goes in. Hydro can really go ham versus Riz's team. U-turn allows me to pivot on a turn 1 Gren. If he does have Clef in the back and I don't want to just blow away the Draco, I can U-turn into a Goth. Yeah, U-turn is pretty, like, it's nice for momentum, but honestly, with Hydra, with this set, I'm just going to be clicking a coverage move of choice versus his team because it is so offensive. Hydra Gun can really just get a kill if it is in the right circumstance. Definitely a nice to have this as a switch into some of his offensive mods like Aerodactyl. If I need to scout for a water move, I can go into Hydra, threaten him out the following turn, outspeeding him with Flash Cannon or just clicking Draco. If his Clef is down, yep, definitely a solid mod in this matchup. The next one we have is my defensive Coon. So this Coon actually avoids the Twig Arrow after lefties from 2 Max Royal Fusion Bolts if he's not a Life Orb set. So this is nice because Kyurem essentially only has 4 Fusion Bolts versus Suicune due to pressure. And if I can store those out, if I can even like pivot into Lando, if I'm feeling wild on a Fusion Bolt, get the Intimidate drop, I take those even easier. If I can stall out 4 Fusion Bolts with this Coon, I just wall it. Toxic is nice in the instance that he chooses Kyurem to be his Suicune switch in. I can Toxic that thing on the switch, rest up, and then switch accordingly. Having like a sub Kyurem Toxic before it can get a sub up in front of Coon is going to be critical in wearing down that Fat Mon, because sub Kyurem is a pretty big threat to my team. It does sometimes force me to sack him on if my Coon is low, so having that Toxic is going to be important. Rest Talk allows me to function better as a bulky water versus potential T-Spike Spring versus my team, as if he does bring Gren, I did see a few T-Spike Grens in some mocks, and having Rest is important to be able to check that method of wearing down my Coon. Then we have Illumi. Shout outs to Maddie for introducing me to the best show on earth, Hunter, X-Hunter. This Goth kind of looks like Illumi, I guess, if you imagine hard enough. So basically this Gothitelle is, and it's also a nightmare for his team, I suppose. That's a kind of parallel I drew there, but yeah. Anyway, Goth's main role is trapping the Clef. So if you look at his team, the only real thing that stands in the way of Scarfed Hydra claiming a kill or dealing significant damage every time it comes in is basically just his Clefable. Like, that is his response to Hydra. And the nice thing about Goth in conjunction with Hydra, so the synergy these two have is that Hydra can U-turn on an incoming Clef, go out into the Goth, and my Goth can trick Clef a Scarf, proceed to rest and calm mine up all over it and beat it 1v1, or at least put it in a situation where it's really crippled and I can use it as setup fodder for one of my speed boosters. So that's really solid. Scarfed Goth also acts as a secondary response to stuff like a last ditch emergency button to stuff like SD Breloom. +6 Mach Punch from Adamant Life Orb Breloom will not OHKO me from full, which is amazing. And it also blows away Blaziken as well if I've got some chip on that, so that's important. Having a Scarfer with this sort of speed, I outspeed max speed Kyurem, which is, I don't expect him to run max speed Kyurem, but if I am in a situation where I just need to get like 20 to 30% off with a Psychic, I can. That's pretty solid. And if I calm mind up and rest, I can trick back a Scarf and be a +6 Goth with a Scarf, and I can OHKO Kyurem. If I get my Scarf back, I'll be able to outspeed him. So that's pretty nice about Goth. It's definitely a solid mon here, and if he doesn't prepare well for it, it could really put in the work. Then we have Diancie. Now this is a very nice set. It's just a pretty standard rock polish 3 attack set. But the nice thing about this Diancie is that once it gets a rock polish up, and once I've got the necessary chip, and I've determined if he has like any focus sash users, or if I've got rocks up, got the necessary chip on all of his team, this thing actually just wins. So if I can find the right time to set up, as I mentioned earlier, maybe getting an Intimidate drop with Landorus, or even tricking something a Scarf with Diancie, with Gothitelle, or even if Celestial has just had its way in, weakened down his team, Rock Polish Diancie is an enormous wink on here. Moonblast, he doesn't really have good responses to Diancie at all. He could bring like a bulky Drill, but Drill is kind of like an unmon versus me. I do have Celesteela and Landorus, which all just come in freely on that. it's basically free rocks for Lando. Like if he brings a bulky drill, I just bring in Landorus and get up rocks, which is amazing for late game DNC and late game Celestealer. So I also have like Suicune as well. So yeah, Exca isn't really doing too much versus me, and if he does opt to bring it, it just means I have one less offensive threat to worry about on his side of the field. If he Shuka Berry, I also have numerous ways of popping the berry, so I have Earthquake on Celestealer and Earthquake on Landorus to pop a potential Shuka and leaving DNC able to take him out late game with an Earth Power. So that's the team. I'm very happy with it. As you guys can tell, like speed control has been a pretty big theme of this team. With an offensive team like Rizz's, speed control is pretty critical in getting the upper hand. With like such an offensive team that I've built for such an offensive matchup, having speed control is crucial to winning. So I've got dual Scarfers here with Goth and Hydra, although Hydra functions more as like a Calm Mind Rest Goth than a Scarf Goth, but it can also function in that role if I need it to revenge Breloom, for example. But yeah, mainly speed boost from Diancie and Celestealer is just one of the two fantastic win cons I have in this game. So that's going to be the team builder. Very excited to see what Riz is going to bring. Honestly, like I am expecting him to bring something like Kyurem, Clefable, Greninja, Mega Arrow, and potentially Gengar in this matchup. I can see Mesprit or even Lantern coming to prevent my Celestealer from going too ham if I am a special Autonomous set. That's just kind of my thoughts like leading up to the match, going into the match, but it's going to be interesting to see what he brings. Going to pause it here and we're going to jump into the game. Alright guys, so here we are with the finals up against Riz, and as you guys can see, he's opted to bring his dual fighting core in Breloom and Blaziken. So this is definitely spooky. He's brought a far more offensive team than I initially anticipated, although this is good news for my speed boosting mons, as I mentioned earlier. I see no Mesprit, I see no Lantern, so my Celestealer is going to have a nicer time versus his team for sure. Although Kyurem will need some chip on it for my Celestealers to actually be able to knock it out with Heavy Slam. And yeah, Scarfed Hydra is pretty nice versus his team, but he did bring the Clef, so I do agree with that bring. Definitely on Riz's part, I think Clef was necessary for him not just to get blown away by Scarfed Hydra. Although he does have two fighting priority users on his team, so that also helps him versus Hydra a bit. But yeah, Goth is looking really threatening in this game. Being able to trap Blaziken, Clef, and Breloom nicely. Can't trap Gengar, obviously being a ghost type. Arrow outspeeds, and it can't really do much to cure him. But yeah, it takes on half his team, which is very solid. Yeah, my thoughts at matchup. Leading off with Hydra again is quite nice. His only rocker is his Clef or his Arrow, and I don't expect him to lead with Arrow unless he's like Taunt, Ice Fang for Lando. But him leading like either an offensive mon or Clef is the way I thought he'd start this out. And me leading with my Hydra scouts his lead, allows me to U-turn on Clef into Goth, as well as breaking a sash on a potential lead Breloom and going into my Suicune to sack it to the Spore, which I felt would come out if he did opt to lead with Breloom. So gonna jump into the match. He does opt to lead with Gengar as I lead off with my Hydreigon here. Now, this is an interesting lead. This made me think he could be like Taunt 3 attacks, maybe Taunt Icy Wind for my Landorus, maybe like Taunt Icy Wind T-Bolt, maybe even Dazzling Gleam or Focus Blast for my Hydreigon. This is not a not a turn that I wanted to risk such an important one on the team. Suicune's use isn't as like important this game. He didn't bring Gren, and one of the important uses of Suicune was to switch into a Life Orb Gren and take that thing on 1v1. He didn't bring the Gren, so apart from Blaziken, Suicune's job is not too important. Obviously taking on Kyurem is nice, but switching into Ice Beams is important. But honestly, versus this threat, I have to scout, I have to respect the potential Sash Dazzling Gleam or Sash Focus Blast. So I'm just going to U-turn out here. I really don't agree with a Scarfed Gengar bring versus me this week. And if for some reason he was Scarfed Gengar and he went for a Dazzling Gleam there, I just got free rocks with my Landorus, which sounds kind of like a huge waste of Hydreigon, but it was a risk I was willing to take. It was an exchange I was going to be okay with making, because getting rocks up versus this team is amazing for my speed boosting mon. So I'm going to go into my Coon here, as Riz actually goes for the substitute. So he makes a really solid play turn 1, risking the Scarf Dark Pulse. If I click Dark Pulse there, I just took him out. He wasn't sashed, he reveals to be Modest Spell Tag this coming turn. So he could have lost he could have lost a really important breaker turn 1, but Rizzy shows no fear in the face of Hydreigon and makes the sub play there. So perhaps he expected me to be a taunt, like a bulky Hydra to take on Gren or something like that. I'm not really sure, but have to listen to his side of that. But either way, the aggressive play works out for him. He gets a substitute up here, and now I'll have to break his sub with a Scald. He's going to reveal 59 from that T-Bolt. He doesn't show Life Orb, he's not Specs, that is Modest E-Belt. So, Modest, interesting bring versus me. It means he's outsped by my Diancie, which is really nice. I don't have to worry about Diancie tying or like losing speed, getting outsped by this Gengar because he is Modest, so that is really nice here. I'm just going to go for Scald, not wanting him to end up behind a sub. I wanted to kind of scout out how he was going to play this. The fact that he went for one Scald there, the fact that he went for one sub there kind of led me to believe he was expecting me to save my Suicune, which makes sense because he does have the Aero and the Blaziken, and if I do rest up, I do tank any hit from Aero, for example, and rest up on it. It is also a nice switch into like a Scarfed Fleblets locked Blaziken, so he does go for the sub there, and we get him with a Scald, but at this stage, like, I don't think he's going to sub again. I think he's just going to T-Bolt, and I could definitely just go out into my Hydreigon here, but the risk of him subbing there or gleaming is not something I'm willing to take. Like, preserving this 40% bulky Coon at the risk of like losing my Hydra, it's not worth it. Hydra does so much work to this team, and I can lure in the Clef with Flash Cannon at some point if I need to, so I'm going to sack off my Coon here. His T-Bolt is going to take me out, and down goes the Suicune. So unfortunately Suicune did go down early, but it did reveal some important information. It gave me some solid information on this Gengar. It told me that this wasn't Scarf, so maybe he doesn't have a Scarf, or he's got like a Scarf Kyurem. We'll have to see. That's one of his main ways of breaking down my team though, so I'm going to Mega Evolve here and just knock him out with a Power Gem. If he had switched to, say for example, Aero, predicting my Earth Power there, he would have got blown away by a Power Gem. He would have just got O-Code, so that's why I went for Power Gem there as well. No point in going for Earth Power. I think Moonblast killed, but I didn't want to risk him going into Aero as well and living a Moonblast there. He's going to threaten me out here with the potential of Iron Head, Aqua Jet, Aqua Tail, or even an Earthquake there. But to be honest, Stone Edge sealed it a ton to my Diancie. Preserving health on Diancie is important because he's got multiple forms of priority. As I mentioned earlier, like Rock Polish Diancie can just win this game, but I need to preserve it, as much health on it as possible in order to be able to take those hits if I need to. So he's going to Mega Evolve here and fire up a powerful Stone Edge, revealing that he's an Adamant Aero. I've got a pretty slow team, so with Aero's ridiculous base speed, he can definitely afford to run an Adamant spread versus me. I'm just going to click Flash Cannon here because it does put this in range of anything on my team. It even puts it in range of Scarf Psychic. Not that Goth is going to outspeed Aero, but it's going to put Aero at a range of health where he can't switch in on any attack from my team. It's also going to catch the Clefable if he does decide to bring that in, which is going to be really important. So I'm going to fire up a Flash Cannon. It's going to do around 65 to this Clef, which is really nice. Now he reveals to be no HP on this set, or very little HP. I think this is like a fast, modest or timid Clef for sure, probably with like Life Orb to take on my Celesteela better, as well as my Suicune. Flash Cannon does 64, so he's now at a range of health where he dies to anything on my team again. Now his play here is to either sack Clef or go into Blaziken. Breloom gets 2-KO'd. I'm pretty sure Bloom gets 2-KO'd by Flash Cannon at this range from a Modest Hydra. The best mon on his team that can take a Flash Cannon is his Blaziken, but if his Blaziken takes any damage, he gets in range of my Earthquake from Celesteela. If I got a decent enough issue roll, he's in range of Earthquake. But more importantly, it breaks the potential sash on Blaziken and means that Earth Power is a guaranteed kill from Diancie. So I'm willing to stay in here and attack his incoming Blaziken rather than making the aggressive switch out to Landorus, which I really did contemplate, but as I said, he could have just gone for the Life Orb Ice Beam, or he could have even gone for Rocks there, and Rocks, getting Rocks up is not what I want to allow, as preserving health on Landorus to take an Ice Fang from Adamant Aero is important. preserving health on DNC to take priority hits is important too. And getting this chip damage off on Blaziken is going to be important in case he was a Sash variant. So I'm going to switch out into my Landorus here, as I knew if you wanted to stay in and go for even a Fire Blast, I could take it with relative ease, scatter set, and switch accordingly. But I felt as though having a Rock type and a Dragon type in the back, he was more than likely going to go for a fighting attack this turn, or make a switch out here. As he does make a double, he makes a nice double out into Kyurem, so if I'd stayed in there and just clicked Flash Cannon again, predicting his aggressive double, it would have 2-KO'd this Kyurem with ease. But he makes the switch out to Kyurem, which is nice for him. It definitely puts him in a commanding offensive position, and this is going to force me to sack a mon on my team, basically, because I need DNC at full. I could always go out into DNC, take an Ice Beam, and revenge him with Moonblast, but I need to keep DNC healthy, as I've explained numerous times. I don't want my Goth to come in and take an Ice Beam. They really can't do anything back to this Kyurem. Celesteela preserving health, and this is going to be nice for a potential sweep late game, as well as taking Stone Edges from Arrow. The only mon, like Hydra, is so nice here, and it's put in a ton of work already, but honestly, it's revenged by Vacuum Wave from Blaziken, it's revenged by Mach Punch from this Breloom, and the nice thing about preserving Landorus here is that it actually potentially lulls Riz into a false sense that I could be a Rock Polish set, planning on setting up on something like Blaziken or Clef, or even Breloom. If I act like this is my Wincon, he's going to be more hesitant to sack this Kyurem later, which is going to come into play. And thinking long term now, thinking like of the end game with DNC, preserving my Landorus is going to make him more inclined to preserve his Kyurem, and that, as I said, will come into play. So I'm going to sack off my Hydra here, as unfortunately Hydra has to go down. He did put in the finest of work this game already. This also allowed me to get information on the Kyurem, see if he was Life Orb, see what kind of set he was there. I don't think this is going to be Scarf Kyurem either. Mixed attacking Kyurem, or just Kyurem with the ability to switch up moves, is just too nice versus me. Scarf Kyurem is kind of bad as well. It's outsped by Timid Scarfed Hydreigon. If I did run that, it's he doesn't really need to bring Scarfed. I guess it's okay because it can revenge a Scarf Landorus, but yeah, having the ability to switch up moves is important. Otherwise, it just gets walled by Suicune straight up. So my DNC is going to come out here, and I'm just going to fire for Moonblast. I don't want to reveal Rock Polish just yet, as I can set it up potentially versus the Blaziken or even this Aerodactyl once I get an Intimidate drop on him. And at this stage, I was still contemplating winning with DNC or winning with Celesteela. So Celesteela was still an option in my mind at this stage in the game. I needed damage off on the Kyurem either way if I was going to win with Celesteela. And if he was a really bulky Resist Berry Kyurem, Moonblast guaranteed put him in range of Heavy Slam from my Celesteela there if he did survive that and take me out with the Iron Head, for instance. But he's going to go out to Aerodactyl here, and he's going to take that Moonblast relatively well. Aero has pretty nice Spit F. I'm now going to go out into my Celesteela as he goes for the Aqua Tail. So Aqua Tail was a fine play there, being able to knock out DNC. I think he was able to knock me out. I'm pretty bulky, but this is an Adamant Tough Claws boosted Arrow there, so Aqua Tail covered me going Landorus there as well, which is nice. So good play by Rizzy. But I'm going to be able to heal a little bit back with lefties, and he's going to make the switch out into his Kyurem here. So I'm going to get an Autonomize up, and I will be able to put this thing in range now of Moonblast. So I'm going to protect this first turn just to scout what he wanted to go for. If he had a Z move here, I was going to sort of waste his Z move essentially and force him to attack me next turn with something like Fusion Bolt if he had it. Ice Beam would not have been able to take me out at this range of health, so I'm going to go for the Heavy Slam here. It only does 34 to Kyurem, so Kyurem choose that. We are lightened, so that is part of the reason why this Heavy Slam did so little. Usually, like being lightened, Heavy Slam still does a ton of damage, but because Kyurem is so naturally heavy itself, that lightened effect was quite significant here. So that's okay though. Selly going down here isn't the end of the world, because now this thing is guaranteed in range of DNC. It was always in range, but I've confirmed that he's not a Resist Berry, so there's no mind games between Power Gem and Moonblast here. I can just comfortably take him out, or even just threaten him with the Moonblast here. Now, Earlier in the game, Riz had the opportunity of going into Clef when my DNC was in, sacking that off, although he chose to go into Aerodactyl. So he's shown that he's willing to preserve Clef for something late game, and for a situation like this, I see no reason why he'd want to sack Aero as opposed to going to Clef, and more importantly, I see no reason why he'd want to sack Kyurem. Kyurem is one of his best ways of handling Landorus. If I'm a Rock Polish set, I can win if I take out Landorus. I literally just win. Like, if I take out Landorus here, and he revenges me with something like, for example, the Aerodactyl, I can go into Landorus, I can get an Intimidate off on the Aero, as I threaten it potentially with Rock Polish. I can double out into my Goth, sack Goth, click Psychic twice, and potentially RP up a second time after getting the second attack drop, putting myself out of range after taking a hit from Aero of his dual priority, as I do resist both. So this was a play that I thought Riz would make, of preserving his Kyurem, because it is one of his best ways of preventing Landorus from setting up for free. If you can ensure Kyurem is in versus Landorus, then I have no choice but to attack, and chances are he's creeping max speed Landorus, which he did reveal after the game. So this is the opportunity. I'm going to take it. I'm going to set up a Rock Polish here as he does attempt to sack off his Clef. And this is what I was talking about. Positioning DNC in the spot that it needed to in order to win this game, and that is what is going to unfold here. So he's going to go out into his Blaziken here, maybe expecting to live a Moonblast or hoping to live the role of Moonblast. But I do have the Earth power there, so I didn't think he'd bring an offensive Shooker Blaziken. It just didn't make much sense when Life Orb or a boosting item was just so much better versus me. But he could have been Vacuum Wave there, and I felt like he was trying to go Vacuum Wave into Mach Punch to win this game, but even that wouldn't have been enough. Vacuum Wave did very little to me, and Mach Punch is a roll to do over 50. It's like I think it's like 46 to 53 or something like that. Something like that from Adamant Life or Breloom. So not even a crit Vacuum Wave into a crit Bullet Punch would have been able to take me out, or potentially crit Vacuum Wave into crit Bullet Punch there, but Mach Punch I should say. But yeah, his Breloom is going to do 54 with the Life Orb Mach Punch, and I'm just going to take him out here with the Moonblast. And yeah, nothing can outspeed DNC at this point. His Kyurem has revealed to be a Z move, so it's not any Resist Berry or like AV or anything like that. So yeah, Kyurem is just going to drop to this Moonblast, and DNC is going to actually take all 6 kills. I didn't realize this during the game until afterwards when someone told me, but yeah, DNC killed every member of Riz's team, so that's really awesome to see the set come through. A nice 3-0 win over Riz in the finals, and it was definitely a very well played game by Riz. It was a very intense finals. I capitalized on his need to preserve Lando for his need to preserve Kyurem for my potential late game win con in Landorus, and just the way he decided not to sack off Clef earlier in the game made me realize that he was wanting to wait till later on in the game where he really needed a sack. And honestly, at that point in the game, like he would have expected me to go for Moonblast versus the Kyurem earlier, and so switching into Aerodactyl was a really fine offensive play there. It allowed him to preserve a sack in Clefable for later on, and that was when he chose to sack it off, and I chose that opportunity to set up a Rock Polish. So yeah, that was the game against Riz. Obviously, big congrats to Riz on his awesome season and a very well played finals. I thought he built and played very well, and very happy to see the team come through as it did. Yeah, that's gonna be it. It was a season 7. It was a very fun, enjoyable season. A lot of very surprising results from a lot of people this season. We had a huge performance from people like Riz, who in the past like haven't performed to like the best of his ability, but yeah, this season he really turned it on and made it to finals. So yeah, congratulations to him for that. Want to thank you all of you guys who watch and support my content for your just like support this season. It's been awesome. I know you guys have enjoyed it, and just judging by the reception of my videos, and yeah, I do appreciate that. It's made it very fun, and honestly, this team that I've had this season, definitely I'd say my favorite that I've ever used in the format. Being able to use Landorus again and Celestealer for the first time in the format, and so having stuff like Hydreigon and Suicune and DNC, even Gothitelle, like So much fun. All those threats. Getting my boy Quillfish. Yeah, all those lower tier ones as well. I had a lot of fun. I want to say a special shout out to all my mates who gave me mocks throughout the season. So, there's a big list of them. But obviously the Mount Rushmore goats. So you got Matty Brolick, you got Anthony Zars, you got Aki, my boy Aki, VGC. So all the Mount Rushmore goats were there throughout the season, giving me mocks, which I really did appreciate. Then I've got my boy Carson, Golden Centurion, always giving me mocks, always like week in, week out. That man is the goat. And then we have all the boys from the ITL, so like people like Sebi VGC, and you've got T-Train as well, who gave me a few mocks this season. I really do appreciate that. Sebi also won the other NPL, so shout outs to him for that. Huge one. And yeah, I've got many other friends in the NPL. People like Verd and Rob mocked me a lot this season. We mocked back and forth. So yeah, just like tons of people. I'm probably forgetting a lot of people already, but to all the other people in the NPL who I mocked with, I do appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy the journey. It's been very fun. Not entirely sure what's going to be happening next season, with who's sticking around and who's taking a break from the format and from mods in general, but yeah, next season with the new gen of Ultra Sun and Moon, it should be fun to see that kind of fresh take on the format with all the new mods and the new mechanics. Hopefully we get some new tools in the format. Chances are I'll still be around, so I should be sticking around for that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be around, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this season and did enjoy this finals match, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Definitely always like to hear your feedback and how you thought I played and built and stuff like that, and what your favorite kind of mon was on my team, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, once again, thanks to everyone who was there throughout the season. Shout out to all the people doing the graphics. They were so sick for this season of the NPL. Really like stepped it up. Obviously the stream, so all the boys with the stream, like Mama Jolt, Greg, David, everyone doing the stream. That was really fun to listen to. And yeah, guys, that's gonna be about it. I think I've probably missed someone, but yeah, shout out to everyone who's involved with this season. It's just made it a lot of fun. So that's gonna be it. That's gonna be NPL season 7. So we get our 3rd consecutive championship, which is obviously awesome. I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. I'm gonna sign off here. I hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I'll catch you guys next time.